on the 13th floor. One more sad life crashes, broken by the yearn for more and more. Another spin of the wheel, roll of the dice, or ace on the turn. You beg, borrow, or steal, or trade your soul for bands to burn. In God we trust, says on the bill, from boom to bust, may give a thrill. It can steal your life, dominate your goals, make a trouble and strife, seek another soul. This little paper deity, let's go and flash the plastic, blow it all on hot girls and wheels. Let's do something drastic. In the morning we'll never feel. Where were you on Black Wednesday? Stood for hours outside the Northern Rock, still hungover from Tuesday. Must we take this banker's crock? In God we trust, says on the bill, from boom to bust, may give a thrill. It can steal your life, dominate your goals, make a trouble and strife, seek another soul. This little paper daisy, says on the bill, from boom to bust, may give a thrill. We can steal your life, dominate your goals, make trouble and strife, seek another soul. This little paper dainty,
All right, good evening, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. I hope it sounds good. Good to know that a lot of you guys are saying that it looks good, which is really good. Really pleased to hear that. That song was Paper Deity from my 2016 EP belonging to Tomorrow. And I thought I need some intro music, so there was supposed to be a nice kind of intro screen, which I forgot to put up. I'm just trying to move my chair in a little bit. Yeah, I forgot to put the intro screen up, which was a bit daft. which is kind of meant to look like this. And yeah, I just completely forgot and started off with this screen instead. Well, what am I going to do? This is the first time I've used OBS to do a stream, so welcome back everybody to my Sunday night live show, live from Johnny Lipson Studios in Edinburgh, Scotland, in the United Kingdom. And this is a bit of there's a lot of firsts going on tonight. Okay, so the first is that we're using OBS to do the stream. Second first is we're using my brand new internet connection. I did a test stream the other night, which some of you will have seen, that I did with Johnny Gibe, and a huge, massive thank you to him actually for helping me get that going and set that all up. So, and it looked really great. I've watched it back a few times just to kind of make note on a few things that I might adjust for tonight's show, and I've made some of those, and so hopefully my voice is coming through loud and clear. If you could let me know, that'd be very, very helpful. I know the song was coming through quite nice and clear, so it'd be nice to know if my voice is coming through just as loud. If it isn't, I can turn it up, that's fine, just let me know. That'd be very helpful. So tonight's show really is going to be kind of like a see how it goes show. To get us started back with Sunday Night Live, and also doing it this way instead of Google Hangouts, which is what I used to use. I'd like to get used to using OBS because OBS is a very powerful... BTN Studio says, okay, my chat messages are being deleted. No, I don't think they are because I can see them. I'm reading them right now. So I think possibly what is going on is I do have slow mode on. So I think you can post every 5 seconds. So if you've done like a series of posts, it will stop you from posting for 5 seconds to allow other people to post. And it's just a way for me to be able to make sure that I get to read everything. Not that we've got hundreds of people in here. We've got 13 people, which is great. So welcome everybody. But having the slow mode on just helps me to be able to make sure that I don't miss stuff that goes flying past on the chat. And I don't want to miss anybody's questions because, you know, all your questions count and they mean something to me. They mean a lot to me. And obviously they mean a lot to you as well. So your questions, your comments and everything else, particularly tonight, seeing as this is the first time we're doing it this way, it means a lot to me as well, because you guys are going to be feeding back information to me that's going to help me improve the show for next week. Bob said, just Bob is here. He's, hey mate, good to see you. He says, voice is good. Looking good. Oh, well, that's good to know. And Dooley says I seem to have an odd accent. No, I think it's Americans that have the odd accent. We invented the language, so it's up to us what accent we have. I'm kidding. And Bobby Booth is here. Good to see you, mate. Welcome. Max1651 says, glad to see you back. Well, I'm very glad to be back, and thank you for coming on the show tonight. Miles McGonigal is here. He says, voice is clear. Well, that's good to know. And it's good to see, actually, that we've got 14, 15 people here, and we're like 10 minutes in, so that's extremely cool. So tonight's show is going to be pretty simple and straightforward. It's simple and straightforward because, you know, I'm using OBS for the first time, and I don't want to make it more complicated than I need to. I think as we go and as I get better at it, we will complicate it up a little bit more. So tonight really is going to be focused on just getting used to this way of doing things, and I'm going to need your help to do that. And also because I'm going to be having to teach myself how to switch scenes without the use of a second monitor because I don't have one yet. I think on my test stream Johnny and I talked about one, and I've got an old TV, little sort of 15-inch TV, widescreen TV, which I'm thinking of using. I just need to figure out how to connect it up to the computer and whether the graphics card will handle it. Because having a second monitor would be really helpful, because then I can put OBS and I can put the YouTube dashboard on that monitor, and I can see all of that, and I can see what scenes I'm switching to. So at the moment I'm kind of doing things a little bit blind, so it might be like that for a week or two until I can figure this out. But so we're gonna have to manage a few things like that. PTN Studios says, so that's what you look like, you're not blurry after all. Yes, and when my mouth moves, my voice comes out at the same time. On previous streams, occasionally it would go blurry, but sometimes the picture would freeze as well, and you'd hear me speaking but not see my mouth move. And really, you guys, I've got to give you guys a lot of credit and a lot of thanks, actually, for kind of putting up with the lo-fi nature of my previous Sunday Night Live show. You guys are terrific. You kind of overlooked the shortcomings that I had, Bobby Booth says up to 720. You should be able to watch this in 1080p because I'm streaming in 1080p. So let me just check actually on my laptop over here and make sure. Yeah. Yep, I am streaming in 1080p. So, and I don't stutter anymore, says Lorenz. Yes, that's right. So, yes, you should be able to watch this in 1080p. So, if for whatever reason, YouTube at your end is defaulted to 720, click the little cogwheel and see if it'll allow you to watch it up at 1080, because it should do, because that's what I'm streaming at. I did try 1080p at 60 frames a second, but my CPU didn't like that. Probably because my graphics card didn't like it. So I might have to hang fire on that until I can get a better graphics card. Let's see. BTN Studio says, you used to have an eerie resemblance to Max Headroom. I remember Max Headroom. I loved Max Headroom. I thought it was hilarious. It was so funny. Such a great show that was. Yeah, the character was really great. And I think the character made an appearance in Peter Gabriel's music video for Sledgehammer, I think, as I recall, as well as you know, a lot of the modeling that they used and the animation techniques they used were done by Nick Park, the guy who is responsible for Wallace and Gromit. So there you go. Useless fact for the day. Let's get that out of the way nice and early. Bobby Biz says 1080 buffers on my internet. Okay, so yeah, if it's no good for you at 1080, then yeah, drop it down to 720 and you'll be fine. And Johnny Guy, the man of the hour, is here. He says, yo, 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 yo. Thank you, mate, for all of your help on the test stream the other night. And I was just so excited by the results of that show that we did. Well, it wasn't really a show. It was kind of like it was just a test, really. But yeah, watching it back a few times, I was so excited after we did that. And it must have been about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning by the time I got to bed. And it honestly took me until about 4 o'clock in the morning before I settled down enough to be able to sleep, because I was just so excited, because, you know, it was just such a big leap forward from, you know, the previous streaming quality that I had, which was rubbish and awful. And you guys have just been so patient with me putting up with all of that. And Johnny says, looks awesome and sounds even better. Well, that's good to know. And he says we had fun. Yeah, we did, actually. It's really, really good fun. So I'm still trying to get my fingers around the shortcuts that I've got mapped to OBS. We didn't start the show very well because I forgot to start with my intro screen and didn't realize actually until I refreshed the feed on my laptop, and then I realized, okay, you guys can see me, because I didn't think you could see me. It's a good thing I wasn't pulling faces or anything. Beatrice is here, my very dear friend Beatrice, and she says, hi guys, sorry I'm late. It's not a problem at all, mate. We're kind of only just really getting started. Let's see. Dooley says my big smart TV YouTube app only does 720. I wish they'd update that. Yeah, for a big smart TV, you'd think that you'd be able to watch this in 1080. So that's a surprise to me. Bobby says picture and sound is excellent, which is really good to hear. Johnny says a second screen will negate the need for shortcuts. Yes, it will. You're absolutely right. I will be able to just click through, which is probably going to be more reliable because I'll be able to see what I'm doing. So yeah, so the shortcuts may be a little bit hit or miss as we go, but hey, you know what? It's going to be, and you meant negate. I did know that. I did know you meant negate, and I just kind of read it as egate instead of negate. I don't know why I did that. But yeah, Lorenz is right. He says JG is the man. I heard shout outs to him today. Yes, absolutely. Johnny Gibe has, over the years that I have known him, he and I have become very close, very, very dear friends, and I'm very proud to have him as my friend. And he has taught me a lot. And he has helped me immeasurably over the years, taking my business forward and improving the quality of what I do. He's been very, very helpful in helping me learn how to make videos, because if you go back through my video archive, my early videos are absolutely awful. But thanks to Johnny, they have gotten a lot better. Johnny regularly feeds back to me ways in which I can improve things. So a big thank you to you, my friend. Okay, Deirdre says, you look marvelous. Love the studio. Yeah, the studio, it's massive compared to the previous room. You're absolutely right. It's huge. This is a 12 by 9 room, and the previous room was 8 by 6.5. So it's 6'5" wide and about 8 feet to the door. And this is just so much bigger. So I have acoustically treated in here, but I'm really only using the treatment panels that I brought over from the other studio. And I gotta say, I think I probably need some more because there are definitely still issues in here. There's a little bit of a low mid thing going on in here. Kind of around 400, 450-ish in here, and I know exactly where the problem point is, and I just need some acoustic treatment to deal with that. So I need to get some more panels. I've got quite a few. I've got 2, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18... 24. Yeah, I've got about 24 1x1 panels up on my walls, and I've got bass traps in the corners over there and over there, which you can't see. What I really miss is having the curtain, my nice big red curtain that I had across the back here, which you can't obviously see, but it just meant that my entire room had this nice red hue about it, which is really nice, and I do miss that. And unfortunately, I had this really smart idea. Hey, why don't I wrap my my computer monitor in these curtains, and it'll just look after it a bit. You know, curtains, bubble wrap. They'll be fine. Well, yes, it survived the move, no problem. However, the curtains got ripped. So those curtains are completely useless now. I think my wife is going to turn them into pillowcases. Let's see. Bobby says the video is still served in education. Well, that's very good to know. And Johnny says, my pleasure. Well, yes, thank you, buddy. BTN Studios says, didn't anyone ever tell you it's not how big your studio is, it's what you do with it that matters? Yes, as with many size-orientated things in life. Size is not always everything, you know? Big car, fast car, it might get you to A and B faster. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be more fuel efficient. So yes, absolutely right. Stephen Greenwood is here. Good to see Stephen. And he says, looks good. Thank you very much. Lorenz is asking, new studio, new piece of gear. Good question. Not yet. Actually, no, I'm lying to you. These. I have the PreSonus HD9s on my head. These were sent to me by my very good friend Rick at Presonus. He sent me these, and I'm going to use these for a few days, and then I'm going to do a review. I'm going to do a couple of mixes on these, and I'm going to do some recording as well. So I'm going to be tracking a couple of songs, and I've got an artist coming in who's going to do some vocals as well for his record. So we're going to make a good use over these over the next couple of weeks, and then I'm going to do a review video. I'm going to get information from my artist and also from my own use, and do it excuse me, and do a nice little review video of these. So that's going to be cool. Looking forward to getting that video made. Dooley says, didn't you have trouble with mixes translating with such small mixing room like my tiny room? I didn't, and here's the reason why. The reason why is because I took time before I started doing what I would call serious mixes in that room, my old room. Projects that I had to do for clients. I took time to play things like Donald Fagen's The Nightfly and Steely Dan's Asia and the Buddy Rich Band Time Check record through my speakers in that room, so that I would know in that room what a really great mix sounds like. And I played them over and over and over again, sitting in my mix position, and then standing at the back, standing at the different points in the room where I thought there might be trouble spots, so that I can know what a really good mix sounds like in the trouble spots as well as in the mix position. And then that helped me learn what that room sounded like, and then I just used those as references. So, if I knew that my mix was maybe getting a little bit sidetracked, I would slam those tracks on, and, my ears would be refreshed. I'd be dialed in back into the room again. So those songs, those tracks, have won awards for their mixing and for the fidelity of the recordings and everything. So those are ideal tracks to use to learn my room. And I'm doing exactly the same in here, which is why before I moved from the other studio, I made sure that I had all the projects that were still on my books done before I moved, so that coming in here, I can take time to learn this room and do it from fresh. So I've got the same tracks on my computer, and just as we're putting up the acoustic treatment, I played the tracks in here with no treatment in the room, so that I could learn what this room sounds like totally bare. And then we put the acoustic treatment up, and then I could compare and contrast, kind of what the issues were, how those issues have been addressed by the treatment, and kind of like what other issues are still outstanding, so that I can compensate. So I'm listening to a solid mix that sounds amazing through my speakers in my mix position in this room, and I can learn what this room sounds like, and then I can start mixing according to the sound of that room, and that will help me translate to other environments. Plus, I always check my mixes on headphones like these. I'll check them on the HD7s. I'll check them on I haven't got them here, but I'll check them on my in-ear monitors, and I'll check them on a pair of crap computer speakers. So my quality control for my mixes consists of, when I think I've nailed the mix and it's in the bag and I consider it done, before I sign off on it, I will run the mix through all of those different things. The crap speakers, the HD7s, I'll run them through these, the HD9s, and I'll run them through some crap computer speakers. Plus I'll also print a mix onto a CD, and I'll run it through the stereo in the lounge. And I'll also do what I call my corridor trick. Corridor trick basically means I'll play the mix, I'll hit play, and I'll open the door and I'll take a walk down the corridor and see how it sounds down the corridor. If it sounds good down the corridor, and it sounds good in here, and it sounds good in the lounge on the crappy CD player that I've got in there, and it sounds good on the different listening media that I just mentioned, then I know I've pretty much got it, and I can sign off on it, and I can send it off to the client. Now the client will still probably send back some maybe they want a bit more guitar, or they maybe want a bit less background vocals, or they maybe want the snare drum a little less loud, something like that, and I will adjust those. But pretty much when I'm at that point where I think, yes, I'm getting the mix, it sounds good, I will roll this chair right to the back up against the wardrobe there with a notepad and a pen, and I'll just put the mix on loop, and I'll start making notes on a notepad of things that I hear that I'm thinking, yeah, that still needs address, that still needs address. And then I'll come back to the console here, and I will make those adjustments, and then I'll repeat until there's nothing on my pad of paper. When there's nothing on the pad of paper, then that's my cue to start listening on the different things, the different headphones, the different in-ear monitors, the crap Apple iPod earbuds, whatever those things are, and my crap little speakers as well. And I've also got one of those tiny little Bluetooth mono speakers. Those, I don't know if you've seen those. They sell them in pound stores or dollar stores. And they're really, really cheap, and I can just run it through one of those using a Bluetooth dongle, dead easy. Little crap little thing that's got lots of mid-range. If it sounds okay on that, if it sounds good on that, then I'm ready to sign off on it. So that's kind of like how I do quality control for my mixes and for my masters. So I hope that kind of helps you, Dooley. He says, I've listened to Nightfly in my room 1,000 times. I'm still fighting translation. Yeah. You may do. You may find that there are still areas which you need to improve of your mixing techniques or your EQ. I'm still learning just as much as anybody else. I've been doing this for, over 20 years, but I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to EQ. I still have issues that I struggle with EQ-wise. Like, I'll openly admit, I struggle with the low-mid kind of area. If any of you are a member of learningtomix.com, the very first month of that was my song Chanel from Belonging to Tomorrow, my EP. And Pete Woj's mix is fantastic of that, by the way, if you are a member, and you get to see his videos that he did. And he very, very superbly exposed my problem with that 300 to 400 area in my mixing. So, there's an issue for me to address. There's an issue for me to learn to listen to a lot more carefully and not allow it to build up over the course of a mix. So, there's adjustments for me to make EQ-wise. Does it mean that when I take my mix out of the room that there's way too much low end? Not generally speaking. Or, there's not enough low end. Those kind of things, low end in particular are not an issue for me because of the way I treat the low end in my room. So it could be the dimensions or the shape of your room, or there could be a room node that is right in your mixing position that you are just not aware of because there's some phase cancellation at that frequency point. And then when you take that mix out, it doesn't sound so great at that point. Johnny says we call them hallways. Yeah, hallways, corridors, same thing. Pretty much. Let's see, the corridors in horror films with echoing footsteps. Yeah, kind of like if you're in for us, what we call a corridor is a section of your house between, say, a bedroom and a lounge, or some such, or from the front door to bedroom number 1, something like that. That passageway, that's what we would call a hallway or a corridor. Dooley says, I've been pulling my seat further from the monitors hoping the bass nodes will change. You might find that they do. Johnny says, so it ended up being curtains for the old curtains. Pretty much. It's a shame because they were not cheap curtains either. So, but they'll make absolutely luxurious pillowcases, so it's okay. Woodbeast is here. Good to see you, Woodbeast. He says, just popped in to say, wow, your stream looks great. So clear at 1080p, it's perfect. Well, that's good to know. BTN Studio says, is there a corridor reverb? You might find that there might be. A lot of corridors tend to have an echo because they tend to be long and very, very thin. So mid-range and upper frequencies will bounce about quite a lot. Woodbeast is going to catch the replay. Well, that's cool. Thanks for that, mate. And yeah, when you catch the replay, feel free to drop a comment in and tell me what you think of the show. Oren Shackman is here. Good to see you, Oren. It's been very good to catch up with you on Messenger as well. So thank you for your comments. I've been very much appreciative of our conversation. He says, sorry I'm late. No, that's all good. We're about half an hour in and we've got about 20 people in here, which is amazing. Thank you, everybody, for coming out to the very first show. I really appreciate it. So, now, obviously, I think kind of like the main thing for me personally about this particular show is how, you know, how we actually do the stream and the quality and all of that. That's really good. And your advice so far and your comments so far have been really, really helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But really, I'm also here for your questions. So if you've got questions, we kind of talked about some of Dooley's issues with his room, and maybe he's got some room nodes that he's not aware of, some phase cancellation maybe. So yeah, keep the questions coming because we're about half an hour into the show and we will finish round about 1 a.m. So that would be cool. I'm just trying to not lose OBS. I keep on clicking away and then OBS disappears and I have to go find it. Mike Neighbor is here. Mike, good to see you, buddy. He says, hey, Johnny, look at that room. Stream looks great. Yes, the room is massive. I'm going to do a studio tour. I've not done one for a little while, so I'm definitely going to do one. And, you know, not that very much has changed in terms of gear since I got the Studio Live mixer. Have I added anything to it? No, I haven't really added anything. But really, the room, and actually, I don't know if you can see, but this desk over here, this is what used to be my studio desk. And it's just in here. We tried to sell it. Nobody wanted it, mysteriously. So, so I still have this, and at the moment, it's got a printer on it and some books. I've got some really good reference books. Mike says, at least the door isn't behind you. Yes, that's a good point, actually. The door isn't behind me, but what is behind me now is a wardrobe. And in the corner there, a full-length mirror. Possibly one of the most reflective surfaces you could have in a studio. But we have a plan for that. And our plan for all of that at the back is we are going to hang a curtain rail across the top of the wardrobe, and we're going to get one of those theater curtains, which, you know, what they do is they tend to turn a theater space into a nice dead space, those curtains. And so I'm going to get some of that curtain material. It's not cheap. It can be about 150 quid, 150 pounds. That's going to be about 250 bucks. Or so, I think, current exchange rate. And that's going to cover all of that up. So there'll be a nice big black curtain at the back there, which would be great. And yes, the other good thing about not having the door behind me is that nobody can open the door and freak me out. Which did happen sometimes. You know, like one of my kids would just sneak into the room and then suddenly they're there next to me. So, you know, that won't be such an issue. Dooley says, let's hear some HD Fender Rhodes. Yes, I will do that very, very shortly. Dietrich is asking where Kevin is. Kevin is still here. We actually thought we lost Kevin in the move, but we didn't. He was hiding. He was hiding in one of my bags of cables. But here he is. Say hello to the folks, Kevin. He doesn't really talk much these days, especially when I'm holding him by his butt. He doesn't tend to talk very much. But yeah, he's still here. He has his private place sat on my shelf here underneath my screen, watching over everything I do, and he keeps me right. He makes sure my mixes are good. Mike says my kids sneak up on me all the time, and I hate that. Yeah, you know, I have to be careful because I have had, you know, kind of heart issues. I got blue lighted into hospital. Went to the ER in 2004 with a suspected heart attack, which was not exactly entertaining because I was only 29 years old. A little bit young for having a heart attack, but there it is. So, but what we think I might have an autoimmune condition that basically means every now and then, every once in a while, my antibodies decide they're going to attack my heart. There's a lot of autoimmune conditions out there. I have quite a lot of them. So my antibodies occasionally just like to spontaneously attack different parts of my body just for fun, I guess. One of those is my heart, so I have to be careful about my heart. So yeah, not necessarily great when my kids come in here and they just freak me out just appearing next to me. So I will definitely be able to hear them coming in because the door is just at the side here now next to my guitar. Bobby says my room sounds flat and I don't have all my treatments and bass traps up yet. Well, that's good. That's a good start. Here's the thing to do is kind of stand where your mix position is going to be, Bobby, and do some finger snaps, and then you'll hear a lot of the high frequencies in the room come up, and some hand claps as well. Do some of those and you'll figure out where you need to put stuff. BTN asks, do you have any acoustic panels on the ceiling? No, I don't. I have to be very careful about what I do in terms of acoustic treatment in this house because it is a rented house. So, and our landlords have been very gracious about allowing certain things to be put in. For example, they allowed me to put in the fiber optic broadband, even when there was already a connection that they had put in, which is upstairs in the attic. I looked into it, and BT, BT own all of the hardware for telecoms in the UK, British Telecom, BT, and they told me it would cost me £140 to get a line put through basically from the attic upstairs down into this room. And I was just like, well, that's just ridiculous. So I spoke to my landlords and they very kindly said, yes, you can put in an extra connection if you want. So they were very good at doing that. So that went in on July 11th. My good friend Rainer is here. Rainer all the way over in Germany. It'll be very late in the morning for him. It's going to be like 20 to 2 in the morning for him. So I'm very glad you're here, Rainer. Thank you for coming. So no, BTN Studios, the answer is no, I don't have anything on the ceiling. I would have to think very carefully, and I would probably have to consult with my landlords. There might be kind of like, that might be an area where we just can't go, in which case, yeah, I'm just going to have to live with that. That said though, the ceiling is quite high, but it's not too bad. It's probably roughly the same as the other room. But I guess there's more ceiling because it's a bigger room. So, yeah, maybe. But I have got a nice thick carpet. The carpet in here is really thick. But one of the things we are going to do is we're going to get a couple of rugs put in here, and that'll help with the, you know, this kind of reflective thing going on, the up-down reflective thing. So, yeah, there are some issues that we're just not going to be able to get past, and that is the case for any room that you are in, because let's face it, our bedrooms or a room in our house, they're not designed with studios in mind. They're designed with, you know, hey, this is meant to be a bedroom. This just happens to be the master bedroom in the house. So big thank you to my wife for allowing that. So we have bedroom number 2, and then the kids have the attic conversion upstairs. But yeah, these rooms are not designed to be studio rooms. They're designed to be bedrooms. So, you know, acoustics aren't really considered when they think about a bedroom. They just think about, hey, it just needs to be vaguely rectangular with a door and maybe a built-in wardrobe, and then you obviously just put the bed in there, and that's that. So you know, there are issues that you're not going to be able to get past, like, you know, where a window might be. in terms of windows, I've been lucky. In the 2 studio spaces I've had in the last sort of 10, 12 years, the old space that I had a window right here, right in front of me, behind the camera, which was probably the best place you can have a window in a studio, in a home studio, is right there. Best place for it, because it's not on your angle of first reflection. Dooley says, is that a partition behind you? No, that is a wardrobe. I will show you. Hang on. No, this is a wardrobe. And it's got some of my wife's clothes in it, which I'm not going to show you for obvious reasons. But it's also got bubble wrap from the move, and boxes from the studio. And in here, there's a box full of computer spare parts, percussion, snare drum, and my clarinet and my wife's saxophone are under there as well. So it's a nice little place to store my stuff, which I didn't. Again, that's something I didn't have either. So. You know, that's something I didn't have before either. You know, a nice place to store stuff. So I've got 2 little storage spaces. I've got the wardrobe behind me, and then I've got this little corner over here. My basses are in there. My keyboard case are in there as well. So there you go. Any more questions, guys? Because we've got about 15 or so minutes left. I think Dooley was asking for some HD Fender Rhodes. I will definitely do that in just a minute. Mike says, I have never had a need for bass traps, yet anyways my room is big enough and I mix at low volumes, never really had an issue with bass. That is another great way. Mike is absolutely right. That is another great way to negate. There you go, Johnny. Thank you, mate. To negate bass problems in your room. And that is to mix at a low volume. So basically, I would say the best way to set that low volume is to basically just start talking in a normal voice. Just say anything, the first things that come into your head, talk to yourself, whatever. Have the volume knob on your mixer controller, like maybe your monitor station or whatever it is that you have for controlling your output volume to your speakers. Have that turned all the way off and then gradually turn it up until the volume coming out your speakers matches your volume at your normal speaking volume. And then when it gets to there, then you've hit that sweet spot for what I would call conversational volume. And that for me is a good low volume for your room. Mike has just said exactly that. You should be able to have a normal conversation whilst having your mix playing. Yes, absolutely. That's the kind of volume that you want to get at. Mixing at a low volume is really good for a variety of reasons. One being that it, you know, a loud volume will hype the bass and the treble to your ears. It's the way our ears are automatically EQ'd. Our ears do not have a flat frequency response. They just don't. It's just the way our ears are designed. That's how they work. Plus, also at a louder volume, your ears are going to compress the audio to protect the eardrum and make the eardrum last longer. Your ears will automatically compress the volume. So, you know, that's going to have a direct effect on your audio. Plus, if it's really loud for a long time, your ears are going to get tired and you're not going to be able to make good critical mix decisions. So mixing at a low volume fixes all of those problems. Plus, also, it takes out a lot of the low energy because, you know, bass energy, you know, has a long waveform. Like an E 2 octaves below middle C is going to be about the wavelength is going to be about 16 foot long, something like that. Now this room is 12 from the front wall to the back, so where my speakers are is probably about 11 feet away from the back wall. Now if a bass note that I've just mentioned is 16 feet long, it means that bass note is going to come from my speakers and it's going to get to that wall before it is run out of gas, before it's run out of energy. And then it's going to come back into the room. Now, if there is that distance of nearly, as close to 16 feet as I can get, which is going to be about 11 feet in this room, then what that means is that it's not going to come back quite so far into the room. It's not maybe going to make it all the way back to me, so there's not going to be a phase cancellation of that low end that I'm going to get. So, but if it's a much smaller room, like my other room was much smaller, so a bass note would basically go to the back and come and smash straight into the wall way before it was anywhere near finished developed, and then bounce right back into the mix position. Pretty much it would come right back. So I'd be sitting in my mix position blissfully unaware that there's quite a lot of low end in my mix, because to me in my mix position it sounded great. But when you go to the back of the room, there's tons of bass back there. I don't have that issue in this room, which is why I developed that kind of rollback trick where I would roll back and check my bass, because at the back of the room you could hear lots and lots of bass. So I'd go, right, okay, I just need to turn the bass down, or I'd check the bass on my headphones. That's another good thing to do. If low end in your room is confusing and you're not sure about it, you're not confident about it, use a pair of headphones to dial in your bass. So turn your bass guitar track down, your whatever bass instruments you've got in that particular mix. It could be a tuba, could be a euphonium, whatever it is that's playing the low end of your mix. Kick drum, all those kind of things. Turn them right off. Play the track without those in. Stick on a pair of headphones. That's going to take out the room altogether. And then just begin to dial those things in until they are at a point where you can hear them clearly and they're nice and balanced in the mix. Take your headphones off and you'll probably find that you go, oh, hang on, there's hardly any bass. And your instinct is going to be, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. You want to avoid that, because you know that, there is an aspect to which your room is lying to you, but you know that the headphones have told you the truth about your low end. So that's kind of how I dealt with low end in that smaller room. In this bigger room, I don't think I'm going to have to do that quite so much, because the bass build up doesn't really happen so much in this room. So yeah, I hope that kind of helps. Helps you deal with that kind of thing. Mike says you should be able to have normal conversation. Yep. Okay. Yep. Bobby says, I do mix in low volume, but I still got some bass traps. Yeah, always good to have bass traps. Absolutely. Even if you think, hey, there's no low end problems in this room, stick some bass traps in, because, once you start treating your room, once you start setting everything up, you might find that actually there really are. You just, you're maybe not listening to the bass in the right part of the room. Just Bob says, my space is 5 feet 11 inches wide by 6 foot 6 inches deep, with a window right next to me on the left as I look at the computer. A CD rack behind me. Yes, so you might have an issue there, Just Bob, that you can't get past, which is going to be the window on your angle of first reflection. So I would suggest having thick curtains across that window when you're mixing, and then have it open when you're not mixing, or whatever you're doing in the studio is not dependent upon, accurate listening. Something like that. And, there are some people's rooms where they do have, like I have, a big built-in mirror to the wardrobe at the back of the room. That's an issue I'm going to have to improvise getting past. And for some people, that's just not going to be practical. So, there are issues that you just have to go, okay, this is one of the idiosyncrasies of my room, and I'm either going to use headphones to mix to take all of that out of the equation, or I'm going to have to, learn the room as best I can and reference my mix to everything. Play a good mix in your room. Learn how a good mix sounds in that room. Something like Stevie Wonder's Superstition, that's another good track to use. Anything mixed by, Roger Nichols or Bob Horn or, Chris Lord Alge or Tom Lord Alge, you know, great mix engineers like that, you know, you can trust those mixes, you know, play them in your mix position, learn what that room sounds like and what those mixes sound like in that position in your room, and then just try and dial in your mix as close to your reference track as you can, is what I would suggest would help. Frank Wagner is here. Good to see you, Frank, my good friend. He says, curious what your brand of clarinet and saxophone is. My clarinet is a Buffet. It's a student clarinet, but it's one of the higher end student clarinets. And the saxophone is a Selmer Mark 6 alto saxophone. And it belongs to my wife. She doesn't really play it. She got given it, actually, which is extremely cool to just be given a Selmer Mark 6. You know, they're not cheap saxophones, but she got one. And I think she had, you know, good clear intentions for a long time where she was going to learn it. And then she just, passage of time, she just hasn't done so. So, you know, I do play a little bit of clarinet, a little bit of saxophone. My dad is, I'm lucky, I'm one of these guys that has two dads, and one of my dads is a genius who plays 40 instruments absurdly, prodigiously well. One of those is tenor saxophone. He is an astonishing tenor sax player. I am not an astonishing tenor sax player or an astonishing alto sax player. I can get by, I can play a blues. But that's pretty much the extent of my playing, is a little bit of blues. I try to chuck in, you know, a little bit of Charlie Parker-esque licks, but, you know, doesn't really come off very well. I need to practice more. Dooley says, I gotta get that lesson stuck in the brain. Yeah, well, that's cool. I hope that helps, Dooley. Mike says, I do plan on making some bass traps when materials are free. Just Bob says, I have thick curtains and mix with headphones. Yeah, that's a great idea. But I do record a mix to my cell phone via holding it in front of the speaker, centered about 3 feet away. It tells me a lot. That's another good way to do it, because the little mic on your cell phone is not going to be great. It's just not going to be great quality. But it will, you know, it'll give you a nice real world feeling of how your mix sounds. Raina says you can be flexible with acoustics if you build a gobo wall like Joe Gilder has in his studio. Yes, his gobos were originally built for him, I think, so that he could record in the previous studio he had to this one. No, not the previous studio to the one he currently has, but the one before that. But in the last two studios, he's made use of them for makeshift first reflection points, because he's been in a couple of rooms that have been maybe less than ideal. But again, you know, you just have to make the best out of what you have to make it work. Raina says, my sister plays sax and you play clarinet. Well, yeah, clarinet is a lovely instrument. But it's actually quite hard. It's quite a tricky instrument to play. It's not as hard as something like cor anglais or oboe. Oboe is horrendously hard. One of the times when I was on a recording date playing a film score, during a break, I was chatting to one of the oboe players, and I was just like, may I have a try? And she goes, yeah, go ahead. So I had to try, and she's like, could I get a sound out of it? No. You know, I turned my face red trying to make a sound out of it. I was just like, yeah, double reed instruments, meh. Who wants to learn one of those? So, you know, happy to stick to single reed instruments for blowing, or a brass instrument like a flugelhorn, something like that. Quite happy to play those when I'm not playing bass or piano or drums. So, or, you know, a little bit of guitar. I play a little bit of guitar, not so good, but I'm working on it. All right, I'm going to help Dooley out here because he's been very patiently waiting through most of the show to hear some Fender Rhodes in HD, so let's do that for him. Move across here a little bit. Let's see, what am I going to play? I'll just play a few chords. There you go, Dooley. Hope that satisfied your desire for some HD Fender Rhodes. I hope that sounded alright, actually, guys. Rena says, for me, all woods are difficult, so I learned the tuba and drums. Yes, tuba is a great instrument, but you really do have to be able to put a lot of air through that horn. It's quite a tough one. Frank says he majored on clarinet in college in the early 60s. Nice! So you're a good clarinet player. Well, that's good to know, Frank. A good clarinet player is hard to find these days. Alright, so we're coming towards the end of this very first show from this brand new studio of mine. I still love this room. Just Bob said sounded beautiful, very clear. Well, that's really, really good to know. I did play some Fender Rhodes on the test stream that I did the other night with Johnny as well, so it's good to know that, you know, actually setting it up myself this time, it sounds just as good. So that is very, very good to know. So we've got about 3 minutes left of the show. And I'm going to quickly grab a swigful of probably less than warm tea. And I'm going to try and not spill it. And I'll take maybe one, maybe two more questions. And then we will call it a night for tonight's show. And I'm very much looking forward to next week's show because this has actually been really good. And it looks like the stream has held up extremely well. And it looks like picture and sound has worked really, really well as well. So I'm really pleased with how this looks. Orange Shackman says, I missed my Autotones. That was a great way to mix. And then it was out to our car for playback. Yes, Autotones are really great because they expose the mid-range. And, you know, you kind of know if your mid-range is harsh or not through those. And so if you can get the mid-range to sound really, really good on your Autotones, it's going to sound fantastic on just about any other device. Plus also, if you get the kick drum to really pop through something like those Autotone cubes, then again, you know you've got the kick drum in a good spot. And, you know, if you can hear the bass come through a little bit, you know, some of the finger attack of the bass comes through those, then again, you know you've pretty much nailed how the bass is going to sound. Bobby says, sounded great on my end. Well, that's good to hear. And I hope that your buffering issues are not causing you a problem enjoying the show. All right. Dooley says, make a man want to cuss. Yeah, we have a square box for such things, my friend. Raina says, to Frank, I learned in a traditional marching band like Hungary or Balkan tradition. Okay, obscure information that you guys will not really know about me, I'm sure. But when I was young, I would say in my late teens, I played drums with a Navy big band, a Royal Navy big band, at a naval base near where I lived at the time. And so I had access to this Navy base. I could, you know, show my pass at the gate, and on I went and played with this Navy band. And we would do, you know, parades and stuff like that as well as playing regular shows and stuff. It was great fun. Really enjoyed it. It was the closest I ever got to being in any of the armed forces. because I have genuine medical grounds by which I would never even be drafted, even if they were desperate. Which is, for me, which was a personal, I was disappointed because there's a very proud military tradition in my family. My grandfather was a World War II veteran, and my family has served in both world wars and Korea, and places like that, and have been involved in the military back 2 or 3 generations. So I was a bit disappointed that I couldn't be involved, but in the armed forces. But hey. Mike says, I'll talk to you soon, Johnny. I got to chill from vacation, unpack and shower and stuff like that. Mike, we will catch up, I'm sure, on Facebook at some point. That'd be great. Or we could Skype chat sometime. Just Bob asked, do you ever run a looper pedal on your Fender Rhodes to layer or build a melody? I don't actually have one. I would like to get one. So maybe I'll save some money for one of those. A looper would be great because I could do all sorts of things. There's a great singer, songwriter, piano player by the name of Ray Thistlethwaite. If you ever come across him, he's an Australian singer-songwriter based in LA. He's a wonderfully gifted piano player. He plays like a Moog left hand, playing a bass part, and then plays right hand, and then sings as well. He plays really complex bass parts. It's like having a real bass player. And then, he kind of plays, right hand piano, and he works with a drummer sometimes, and sometimes he uses a looper, and he'll do like voice percussion. He'll like do a beatbox, and then he'll play his piano part and this Moog part, and then he'll sing the song over the top of that, and it just sounds fantastic. He'll do a one-man show like that. So I would like to get a looper pedal so that I could do that, so I could go out and play like a one-man show if I wanted to. Deirdre says, congratulations JL on your new arrangements. May you record, mix, play and sing and produce for many years to come. Well, thank you so very much for that, Deirdre. It's very kind of you to say that. Frank says, take care, new studio looks and sounds great. Yes, it certainly does, and I want to thank everybody very much for coming out to tonight's show, and thank you very much for all of your feedback, actually telling me how good it sounds and how good it looks. That's all really good. I'm going to listen back to, I'm going to watch the playback back and listen to the audio and make sure that the voice is coming through nice and clearly and that everything's in good balance. So thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you. I'm going to get back into, I'm interrupting myself here. I'm going to get back into making videos as well. So I've got a whole bunch of videos that are backed up, ready to get uploaded to YouTube. So those will be coming, so watch out for those. If you are not a subscriber to my email list, there's a link down below in the description. Go hit that and join the email list. I put out, or at least I'm going to be putting out weekly content from here on out. New studio, new passionate desire to get content out to you guys. So regular emails going to be going out with all my best tips and tricks and lessons and stuff for you guys, plus also latest information, and I'll keep you updated on VIP. VIP is very nearly ready to go. I know I keep saying that, but it really is. We just hit a little bit of a stumbling block with PayPal, which PayPal tell us they are going to have resolved very soon, so we should be able to go ahead and get that done. So VIP will be launching very shortly, guys, and you'll find out about that via email, and I'll be doing some videos on it as well, and we'll do a live stream special for that when we launch it. Thanks a lot for coming, guys, and I will see you very soon. Good night.